So we're talking with Delaney Howell, Market to Market. She has a podcast, Ag News Daily. Make sure you guys check that out.
Yep.
So we were just talking a little bit about that direct marketing piece. There's a lot, and we talked a little bit about standards. One of our big thing is this sustainably sourced standard. And that's kind of being driven by big ag, and just kind of to pull back into the conversation from before. If we don't take the initiative to be the makers of our story, like your parents, you shared that story with us and what they're thinking, which I think is terrific, taking that initiative on your own farm and trying to be ahead and do the marketing. How long before we give that up to another label like sustainably sourced to a big ag company? I mean, do you foresee that people will start doing more and start thinking like you guys are thinking, or do you think it's going to be?
I don't know. That's a tough one, because when you look at the number of people that are still the top decision makers, that age group is the 55, 65 plus age group. That's not the age group that
It's going to do a lot
that's
of
not the
direct
age group that's going to change, right?
Right.
They're set in their ways. That's fine. They've been doing farming for 50, 60, 40 years, whatever. Those aren't the ones that should be telling the story, probably, because they're the ones that are maybe on their way out of farming. I think it's the younger generations, the 25 to 35 to 45. Those are the people that need to be trying to shape the story and figuring out what is the next big thing. Is it sustainability? Is it organics? I mean, maybe not organics, that's kind of already phased out of the market, but what is the next big story, and how can we tell our story first before somebody does that for us?
Right.
And I don't have the answers, but like I said, if somebody figures it out, they're going to blow the industry up.
And that's what I keep saying with it. Like, there are a lot of companies that are trying to do it. Land O'Lakes, General Mills, like, I mean, even Patagonia, and like a bunch of these companies now that are on it. But
Well, I think Patagonia is really the
need
success story of this.
Well, yeah, they've been doing it, but in a different kind of angle. But I think our point on that, and me as an agronomist and stuff, is, okay, yeah, those markets so far, organic and non-GMO, they're very emotionally driven.
Yeah.
You tie into people's emotions, you tell them the story, and that's what you sell on. I think with the sustainably sourced or regenerative ag, that it ties into the emotion side, especially on an environmental impact, but it's got the science to back it up too.
I think the other thing too is, maybe as producers, we think that a lot of consumers want non-GMO, gluten-free, blah, 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 whatever the label is. We think that they want that, and consumers often say that they want that, but I was talking to Dr. Jason Lusk. He's an ag economist at Purdue University, and he's done a lot of research on consumer choices and preferences, what we eat and why we eat it. And he said a lot of times when consumers have to put their money where their mouth is, they're not going to buy that stuff because it's so much more expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you think of like the maybe lower educated people, or the people that don't know as much about it, and they think, I have to be a good parent, I have to buy organics or gluten-free or non-GMO stuff to be a good parent, to be providing for my family. And I think maybe that's another message we need to be telling, is the other stuff is just as healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's your choice and your preference to spend a higher premium to buy that stuff, but
well, that's kind of what we've been talking
think
too, that it's all just choice. As a consumer, you have plenty of different choices. Pick whatever you want. And as a farmer, we need to diversify to get more choices too.
100%.
Because right now we have basically one choice.
right.
And you could maybe change that decision based on timing. That's about it. So that's the whole deal, given choice.
That's really interesting research, though. And the one thing, I don't know if you know this or not, but we talked about how the farmer is going to change, the decision maker on the farmer, and the consumer is in the same place, right? Like when I look at my mom's generation of consumer, they probably don't put their money where their mouth is. They may think that that's good and that's healthy, and I want to do that, but really, they're less likely. They want to buy cheap at Walmart, right? Whereas the younger generation, the millennials coming out, I think that they honestly maybe are more likely to do that.
To go out of their way.
I would
So I
agree.
think that
To go to the Whole
is
Foods.
changing. Yeah.
Yeah, then you go the Whole Foods route or something like that.
Right.
Or you go to the farmer's market kind of a deal.
I mean, there's a reason places like Trader Joe's and stuff are
And
just
Whole Foods.
are making tons of money. I mean, and if you look at the gravitation of big players, Walmart, Amazon, these type of players in the marketplace, they're buying up smaller companies like that. General Mills just bought Annie's, for the macaroni and cheese,
Yeah,
and that was really cool. I wish we had that stat from Rhino, but this is what scares me. So then General Mills goes and says, we can't get the domestic production for organic. So we go out and they buy, I forget what that is, 77,000 acres.
No, 36,000.
Okay.
Fine, whatever. 36,000 acres. That's a lot of
Dakotas,
acres to produce organic wheat. So they're basically purchasing land and
do
then
it themselves.
outsourcing the farming.
Yeah.
That's what's scary to me.
Yeah.
I
that
think
they're
that
going to be the ones that control. I mean, especially like when you look at Iowa's pork industry, what is it, 90% is already contracted by Tyson or Smithfield or whoever. Like, they don't own the pigs. They maybe own the buildings,
Right.
but
That's,
So that's where I get.
it is kind of scary.
I get kinda
And I think
nervous,
when you throw one other little piece in there, again going back to Dr. Lusk, he said the people at the top of the food pyramid, the people in Washington D.C. that are making our food policy, don't necessarily have the same choices and the same preferences as the people at the bottom of the spectrum, the lower socioeconomic people, the people that maybe can't afford some of that higher food stuff. The people at the top are making the decisions and looking around them and saying, well, what I think and what I like is probably best. So we'll just make this policy that enacts it for everyone. When at the end of the day, what about the people at the end that don't have
hopefully
the power?
Bill Northy's in there helping us out.
Yeah, that's true. For
It's
sure.
good. I'm glad we got him in there helping. But yeah, no, that's true though. Like that disconnect though too on we need to be able to cater to a wide range of different people, both domestically but abroad too.
And I think we're lucky enough to have that choice.
Yeah.
A lot of other countries don't. It's that one option, two options at the grocery store. We have a wealth, a variety of options. So.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
But I just wonder. I mean, I know that we've talked a little bit about the science, and there's a lot of debate over that, right? You can believe whatever science you want to believe out there. There's plenty of it, but it's just interesting that. Okay, when we were talking about advertising a little bit earlier. I mean, you look at television advertising right now. Who in the world watches television commercials?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like if you're paying
yeah.
for TV ads, it just boggles my mind. Like anybody under the age of 30 isn't even subscribed to Dish
Right.
Network.
Yeah.
You know, they're streaming
nothing.
everything, right?
Yeah.
So the message is now going to be filtered from television advertising to any Joe Blow with the iPhone who has a camera can create a documentary.
Like us.
Us, and spread a message.
Seriously,
Yeah.
anybody with a phone or with an iPad can be a reporter or be a
100%.
journalist
yeah.
and tell whatever story they want to.
Oh, yeah.
So-
How are we supposed to filter through that?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what's going to be like that's what's super interesting
Yeah.
to me right now.
Yeah,
It's like
for sure.
where does that go? And you can't hide things anymore. Like I tell this story to a lot of guys about how with the grass-fed standard was big, they could, or the labeling, made in USA labeling, they would bring in grass-fed beef from Argentina into Miami, package it there so they could put made in USA. Like that, those type of tricks you used to be able to do in the pre-1990s and get away with it and make millions of dollars doing it. The internet exposes everything now. So like
You can actually
can't-
trace all that stuff back.
Right, the consumer is so
Connected.
much more connected. Like we always talk
That's why I
about them
don't
being
understand
disconnected.
That's why I don't understand why there is, like, why are they believing? I mean, I guess
The
it's like,
mantras and
Why do they believe all this stuff that they see? Do they think everything on the internet or Facebook or social media is true? Why are they? I don't.
There's probably
how do
some
we get through?
susceptibility there, but so you just got through
But it's
8
when
years
but yeah,
of
when
ag
it's
education. What's the message in the ag schools this year? I don't know. But what did you hear through the ag schools? I mean, where does places people like Monsanto and GMOs and organics, where are those being situated in?
well, I mean,
in,
just
like,
coming out
the
of Iowa
state
State,
universities?
I think
That's what
at Iowa State, I mean, I just got down there in May, and we've got to feed 9.5 billion people, and we've got to have GMOs to do that, and tillage was a huge piece of the equation.
So maybe it starts with our educators first. I don't know.
Oh, for sure.
Well, I think that's
might
always
be-
the argument, right? Is that these kids are coming out indoctrinated. It's like we ship them off to university and then they come back like stamped with liberalism or something. Like you hear that all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's been a long time since I've been in college, so I'm curious. I don't
Trey,
remember.
you're so old.
I don't. Yeah. Well. yeah. Yeah.
Right.
But I don't remember like Monsanto being a bad word when I was in.
I don't know that it is a
college,
bad word to everybody. I
No,
think,
100%.
Yeah. I think.
But there's a
maybe
huge group that do think
You
it's
get
a bad
on.
word.
What I'm saying
Absolutely.
is you get on the internet or you start watching Netflix documentaries.
because everybody can just talk to each other about it now.
It's
Instead of
somewhere
the
you can
coffee
point-
shop where you go and have coffee with your buddies in
An
the
actual
morning,
debate.
Right.
It's people being faceless on the internet or social media or ag forums,
Yeah.
talking about other people in the industry, talking about businesses in the industry. Like, they're like talking behind each other's back. It's,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like we're going back to high school or something. Like,
Right.
you can't
But then
just-
it's all out there on the internet, so everyone knows that
Yeah.
you're exactly what they're saying.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter because the other guy's talking right back, saying the same stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going back to your, like, going kind of full circle here, going back to your point about, even as the ag industry, we're divided. And I think that's
Yeah.
one of the big issues.
Well, that's ongoing for sure. I think even in our small niche kind of stuff on cover crops and tillage versus no-till and even like
Or we're the ag
anhydrous versus
hippies,
yeah.
right? Like, don't you like feel like sometimes
Sometimes.
that's
As
our
a cover crop
classification?
person,
Like,
you're
you
a
know,
Oh, yeah.
hippie.
yeah, like
But
if you if
to
you're
a
preaching no
large
till and you're
majority-
preaching
Yeah.
cover crops and
I
these
see,
soil health, like
yeah, I see
people
what
like
you're saying.
you know, like to some people that's complete counterculture. You know,
Or especially when we start talking about selling to anything other than into 350 corn market.
sure. We're just
But-
outcasts.
Yeah.
This should be the
Rebels.
Outcast podcast.
Ooh.
It probably
I'm
is
gonna
one.
bring-
That's a catchy name. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's taken already.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
probably.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys spent some time today together.
Yeah.
What'd you learn?
We went digging around looking at some cover crops and
Okay. What's the state of the cover crops of Washington County right now?
they're growing a little bit here, but I was checking some soil temps today, low 40s at 4
Okay.
inches. So we got a ways to go there. We're going to be holding off on planting here for a little while. We'll see if we end up getting any rain or snow here tonight, but looking, 50s, getting up to 60 by the weekend of next week. I don't think we're not going to be planting, but I know that there will be guys in the area planting. But there's a lot of fertilizer that needs to be moved. A lot. To tie in with what we were talking about yesterday on changing your decisions and stuff away from, like, if you were planning on anhydrous, can you switch to other stuff because of a time crunch? There's companies marketing to that.
Oh yeah, sure.
So we got an email about that on looking at getting other sources of fertility out there, especially nitrogen, which I think is interesting to look at. What are other tools that we can utilize to, we're getting in a time crunch right now. Spring applied is closer to when the crop is going to actually utilize nutrients versus fall applied. And we're getting into a time crunch. Okay, we'd like to get it going. It's still a little bit cheaper and easier to do it right now, but we're still a couple months away from actually utilizing nutrients. So that's the thing to keep in mind, that when it's time to plant corn, it's time to plant corn,
Sure.
and that there are options on getting nutrients out there. So I don't know, but just interesting that we were talking about that here, and there's companies that are marketing directly to
Yeah.
that.
So Delaney, you spent some time at your home farm when you were back.
Yeah. Well, not this weekend, but I try to get back probably once a month or so.
Okay. So you guys tell us a little bit about your guys' operation and what you guys are doing.
Sure. We run just under 1,000 head of feeder cattle. My older brother and my dad do that. We raise them in hoop sheds, just backgrounding and finishing them out.
Yeah.
Working with another guy here in actually Washington County, Kurt Dahlmeyer. He buys them and ships them over to us, and then we take care of them from there. And then we also have right around 1,000 acres of row crop, corn, soybeans, do a little bit of cover crops, rye,
Sure.
and we have I think 30 chickens. I don't know. We just like having the farm fresh eggs.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
my mom's project.
There you go.
But I don't know if she knows what they even look like.
Cool. So how long have you guys been doing cover crops? And are you doing that strictly like from a cover crop soil health? Or are you doing cover crops as a food source or?
We've done cover crop as a food source, mostly rye and wheat. Years that we've done it, I don't know. It seems like a long time. We've done no-till for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think farmers recognize the value of taking care of the land, and I didn't know that they were considered the hippie or the counterculture of
Well, I
agriculture.
think, I think it's
I
still
might have
just on
extrapolated.
down here, Washington County. I mean, there's enough of our peers that are doing it too. But when you look at ag as a whole, there's a lot of people that are like, still pretty anti cover crops,
Yeah.
anti no-till. Like, in order to reach some of the goals that some of these Iowa groups have, 12.5 to 17.5 million acres, and we're only at
Right.
maybe 750,000 acres on
I
some
think maybe we're
estimates.
close to $1 million.
Some estimate.
Yeah.
It
There's
depends
a-
on what estimate. you
There's
look
an
at.
education piece that's missing. You know what I mean? Like the cover crop or the soil health movement in general is pretty new and pretty small in the term of farming.
Well, but for their operation, it fits in perfect that they were already doing it because you've got a food source there to feed all these cows.
Yeah.
You have the trump card.
Oh, it's awesome.
When you have cattle, like
Yeah.
cover crops is like I mean that's like cheap
I mean, weather
source of
still
food.
plays
Yeah,
effect
sure.
in that, but
Yeah.
But there's so many mistakes that you can withstand when you're feeding it through a cow to make out on the premium side of that from selling the beef.
Yeah, you guys got to be
versus-
marketing that beef direct market.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, even
maybe
just,
that's the next step.
There you go.
but if you're not feeding corn, if you're cutting back on your corn, your feed costs go down. I mean, there's just so many things that you can make. For a guy that's just doing corn and soybeans and putting rye out there, and then he takes a yield hit because of management or because of weather or whatever it may be. Like for that guy, that's a lot harder.
Yeah,
to
we don't
absorb.
necessarily raise. I mean, I've been trying to get on my dad to do a better job marketing because we don't really do a lot of marketing. We don't have a lot of on-farm storage, so he needs to do a better job of looking at the futures markets, making some of those contracts ahead of time, looking at some option strategies.
But if he's able to even get on-farm storage ramped up and feed more of that too, and like what we've been talking is that you're feeding the cattle then your cover crop, but also a crop that the corn that was produced sustainably, if you're, or at least produced with cover crops. That's not going to be just all it takes to be sustainably sourced, but you can still market along those lines too.
Absolutely.
And be telling that story that, hey,
Yeah.
we do have a diversified operation here. We got a lot of different things going on, way more than plenty of people in the area or around the Midwest, and be able to utilize that to market off of. So that's really good. It's awesome. But a lot of, I think, ability to tap into that and to utilize that to your advantage, but it just takes effort. It takes
It
a lot
does.
of
It
work.
takes a lot of
but,
time.
but that's where it does take, like, your brother coming back, and helping in the operation. That's got to be him, or so.
So just your dad and your brother then basically on the farm right now. Mom's doing the chickens, obviously. and-
Yeah, my mom works in town.
Okay.
My little brother is a senior this year at University of Wisconsin-Platteville and going into electrical engineering, so I don't think he wants anything to do with the farm.
Sure.
And it's really funny, like my parents always tease me. They're like, out of all three of the kids, we thought you would be the least likely to do anything in ag, and now I'm
Yeah.
working in market to market and
Yeah.
doing all this ag media stuff. And I think eventually, like, farming is a lifestyle that I enjoy, and I think I want to do something with the farm. I don't know if it's our home farm or starting my own farm or doing some sort of direct marketing piece or an agritourism
Yeah.
piece, but I'm excited. I think there's a lot of good things in store.
So did you, when you were growing up, was the farm something that you kind of saw yourself coming back to, or were you pretty much out on that from an early age?
I just liked showing at the fair, like the county fair, the
Sure.
state fair. I just liked being in the limelight, I guess, and maybe that's why I'm in the roles I'm in now. I just liked that part of it, and I did like being on the farm. Like every summer we would work with our livestock every day or bottle feed our calves or whatever. Like I liked that aspect of it, but the part of like working long hours and not always getting to go on a vacation because you have livestock or whatever, that part wasn't always as thrilling as a child. But now I look at it and see what it taught me and recognize that I want that for my lifestyle too.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, cool. It's just funny that we talking with like Michael Dito a couple weeks ago, and he was one of these guys, and I think we see this a lot where kids are out, like freshman or sophomore year or high school, they say, I don't want anything to do with the farm. And then they go to college, they get a degree, they go become an engineer, they become
And they recognize they wanted to go back.
well, they
eventually.
the cubicle life ain't for them, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So they come back to the farm and
Yeah.
enjoy it. You
I know. Out of all three of the kids, my older brother, my younger brother, and myself, my youngest brother had the most involvement, and he picked the career that was least involved in agriculture. So it's like, I don't know, maybe he was burnt out because he just did so much all the time on the farm, but I keep thinking maybe he'll decide later he wants to have a farm or something, but I don't know. It's interesting to see.
Cool. So you are kind of in the Des Moines metro area
Yep.
right now. Talk about like
Well,
they have
like
a
that
pretty
one.
good like agricultural center, with their farmers markets and what they're doing.
Yeah.
What are you seeing from just like agriculture infusing in the metro life of Des Moines? Is there anything that you're noticing or like
The
people
met-
doing any of
the
that?
metro.
The metro.
Yeah.
I think people are taken back sometimes when I tell them that I'm from a farm, because they're like, why are you living in Des Moines? Why don't you live on a farm? What is that even? Like, people just don't understand, and it's really fun to talk to them about it. And I do a little bit of freelancing for ESPN, and one time they asked me to go to Whole Foods and pick up a couple things for them, because I'm just a peon when I work for them, of course. But I'm like wanting so badly to ask them why I have to go to Whole Foods for it to be healthy, right? Because why can't I go to Target or Walmart or Hy-Vee or a normal store? Why do I have to go to Whole Foods? So it just kills me sometimes. And of course I was a peon, so I was like, I probably shouldn't say anything. I want to get fired, or I want to be asked back. But it's just mind-blowing sometimes to hear what people are saying and just don't understand. But I think a lot of the commodity groups are working on that too. Iowa Soybean Association, Iowa and National Pork Producers, Iowa Corn Growers, all those commodity groups are working to tell that story too. And I think they all do a really good job of doing that to some extent, but we need more.
Well, and so maybe that's kind of some of the takeaways here. So what is that step of more? So like a lot of our listeners are farmers. So as a farmer, what's your take on what can we be doing, especially leading into planting season and in this year's growing season?
I mean, I think a lot of farmers are scared by social media, but that's how you connect with other people. Yeah. It is sometimes people being faceless on it and talking against each other, but I think it's also a tool to lean in and engage with people outside of the farm, inviting people to come to your farm, inviting guests, and sometimes that seems scary because we think, oh, what if we get a PETA hippie type of person to come out and then our farm's in the news and whatever. But I think if you're instilling those practices of being good stewards of the land and taking care of your animals humanely and effectively, then I think people will recognize that. And I don't know what we do from here, but that's the big question.
Well, that's like what we just keep on hitting on, that it is, we got to be able to tell our story. It's okay, does each individual person need to be telling their own? How do we tag into somebody else's story? So Iowa Soybean or Practical Farmers of Iowa or something like that do have a loud voice. So can we filter into that?
And maybe the biggest thing is just do something. Don't just sit there and watch. Don't just say somebody else will do it. Somebody else will take care of it. Somebody else will tell their story. Yeah. Be active yourself. If you have something to say, then speak up, make your voice heard. Right. There are the tools out there if you want to do that. People will help you. People will lift you up and help you do that. Yeah.
Well, so that's really good.
We're with you there. It's how do we, just continuing to do that, and that, hey, we are doing things better. Like, we are doing things the right way. And it's telling that to people right around the area, but making sure that we play into the right mantra too, that we don't divide ourselves more, So like I've had that conversation with some guys though that say, the NRCS push or government push and whatnot is cover crops and no-till. Anything other than that is bad. Well, you can use cover crops and no-till, but have your fertility terrible and still do a lot of things wrong and be just as harmful on the environment as a tillage operation. Or you can use tillage but have veg field practices and be really good at nitrogen management and not be causing a major issue. So I think it's just important that we're telling everyone's story though too, and maybe it's feeding into what does the consumer want to hear. Hey, I'm your guy, that somebody's out there.
Give them what they want to hear.
Yeah, give them what they want to hear and feed into that. And I think that's a big kind of my takeaway from today is, and I've thought about, okay, with back to organic, or we use that as the obviously classic kind of specialty market or non-GMO, whatever, that as conventional farmers, we say, well, that's stupid, and bash on it, but it's obviously working, you got to give the consumer what they want too. And
at the end of the day, farmers just want to make money.
Yeah, you have to. It's a business. You have to.
For a dozen eggs,
let them.
Whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
$9 for a gallon of raw milk or something like that. I mean, it's just insane.
It doesn't mean you have to buy it or eat it or whatever, but if that's what they want.
Well, and I liked the point earlier too on we need to be telling also the story that we are going from farm to table ourselves. Yeah. That was another good point, I think, that, and there are people that do that, especially if you are raising livestock and stuff and you're eating your own home produced livestock, that, hey, we're eating this too, but we're producing more than what our family needs ourselves. So, hey, we can sell this to you also. But we're right there with you, that we want something healthy. We want to know how it's produced. We're producing it ourselves. We're eating it ourselves. Here, you guys can also participate if you like our story.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good kind of another missing piece, that we say, hey, here's how we're doing this. Here's how we're producing. We're doing things better, but we're feeding right into the end consumer too. We're a consumer too. Like I said, that was
and that consumer base is broad. Like, you don't have to just do things organically or sustainably or whatever. You just have to do, like, look at your own ethics as a farmer in your farmstead and decide for yourself what you believe and how you want to raise things based on your values, and then market that. Like, it's not that you have to sell, you're not Walmart. You don't have to sell to every single person out there, It's just telling that story and having people buy you. If you look at IVs, you walk into IVs, they got some big billboard cutout, of some farmer with his wife, and they're selling that story for you. Like, you don't need the IV to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you can do that yourself. And it's not, I think that the labels are completely overrated. I think we could get rid of all of them, and people just say, they tune into your farm and they say, I like you and I like what you're doing and I believe in your values and believe in the way that you're producing food, and I want to buy stuff from you because I know that you grew it in a way that I believe in. And that, if we can get there, which I believe technology allows us to do fairly easily, I think that we win, as farmers. And all of a sudden now we're getting dollars instead of pennies, and that's a game changer. It's a game changer.
I like it. Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, we always end most of our interviews with a question. We just love kind of connecting with people. And so what's something that you have in your life that just really right now is like super exciting for you or super consuming? Like, what consumes your time when you're not working, right? Like, what is your
The Metro life.
Yeah. Metro life, right?
I keep going back to this idea that we are connected so much that it's just so interesting to go to conferences or trade shows or whatever and just see people like, oh, that person's from Southeast Iowa. How random that we're meeting in California. Just we're so tight knit as an ag community. Like, there is a division sometimes, but at the end of the day, we're all on the same team. Yeah. And it's so fascinating to just meet so many new people and hear their stories, because everybody has a different story. And I work in the media and I'm telling people stories every day for my job. So that I always feel like I'm not always working, but I'm always like trying to.
You're always on though too. It's always the same.
It's just when I thought about what I want to do when I grow up, like, I never could have imagined, like, this is what I get to do every day. I get to talk to people and tell their story, and I'm super passionate about it. So that just consumes a lot of my time.
Yeah, cool.
I like it. But
awesome.
Yeah, thanks a ton for joining us. This was an awesome interview, and we hope everyone enjoys it. Definitely follow Delaney for more. They put out.
So they can find you on Twitter.
They can find us on Twitter.
What's your handle?
Yep. They can find the Ag News Daily podcast on Twitter. That's at Ag News Daily. You can also find us on social media if you head to at Ag News Daily. You can also find me on Twitter if you head to at Delaney Howell 07, and I'm sure my name will be spelled in the caption.
Yeah, we'll put
I don't really add people on Facebook if I don't know you, so probably don't look for me there, but definitely find me on Twitter.
But send your messages to our other box or something.
Yeah, you can send me a message. If I know who you are, I'll add you back, or if we have a conversation. But
are you guys doing anything YouTube? Are you on
we do,
Instagram? Are you doing anything there?
It takes a lot to manage.
I know.
Stuff.
I hear you.
We're just treading water. We have a website too. You can head to agnewsdaily.com. We have all our podcasts. We have some news stuff on there. So
cool.
Try to do a little bit here and there.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you guys having me on. This has been great.
Awesome.
Cool. So that pretty much wraps it up for today.
Till next time.
See ya.